Let me introduce our speaker today. Her name is Leslie Anna Tarabella. She is a humorist, a newspaper columnist, an author of clean, funny stories. She has written The Majorettes Are Back in Town, Exploding Hush Puppies, Bringing Christmas Home, and I believe there's another book in the works, which she's welcome to tell us about when we give it back to her. Today, she will be giving us tips for inexpensive and effective marketing. Welcome, Leslie Ann. And she likes to be called Leslie Ann.
I'm in Fairhope, Alabama, not too far from you. And I used to live in Slidell when I was a very little girl. And my father was in the seminary in New Orleans, and he was a minister of music my entire life growing up. And when I lived in Slidell, I'll give away my age, the Stennis Space Center was just booming and opening, and a lot of Northerners were moving to Slidell so they could work at the Space Center. And they came to our church there at First Baptist Church in Slidell. And a lot of them kept the nursery where I was. And my mother blamed them for taking away what she thought was my Southern accent, which my Northern relatives, my husband is from New Jersey, and so his relatives can't understand a word I say, but my Southern relatives say, you don't have a Southern accent at all. And my mother said, it's because we lived in Slidell and they just stole your Southern accent. I love living in Slidell, and I actually have memories. I lived there until I was almost 4 years old, and I actually have memories, very good memories of early childhood. So I love and claim that Louisiana, New Orleans area as part of my childhood. So I'm glad to be with you today. And I do have a new book coming out, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'm very excited because it is 99.9% out of my hands. I will receive a proof copy just in a few days and go over that with a fine-tooth comb. And then it will be ordered, and I'm aiming for a release date and a launch party of October 8th for that book. So I have won an award in the past for marketing, and I do not have a degree in marketing. I do not have a degree in journalism, but God gave me a gift in life of writing a newspaper column. And I wrote a newspaper column for 10 years, every single week. And it was for Mobile, Birmingham, Huntsville newspapers. So it was AL.com within the state of Alabama, but it also appeared occasionally on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And also, even though it was Southern in genre, it also appeared from time to time in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Syracuse, New York. It was kind of interesting when I started getting letters from people who lived there saying that they liked my story. I was thinking, how in the world did you see it? But the newspaper also owned other newspapers there, and from time to time they would send it there. And if you had told me years ago, this is what God is going to lead you to do, I would have said, oh, please, God, reconsider. Because number one, writing a weekly column and having a weekly deadline is sometimes stressful. And I didn't like that they made Monday my deadline, because often my mind would wander during church on Sunday, and I would be thinking, what am I going to write? How do I finish this story? And so I didn't like the Monday part. So I had to learn to work weeks ahead of time so I wouldn't ruin my Sunday worrying about the column that I had to deliver on Monday. But I always thought that if God's going to give us a gift to use, and by the way, I also taught kindergarten for a while too, so I've done different things. But if you go to my website, which is my name, leslieanntarabella.com, or I would love for you to follow me on Instagram, Leslie Ann Tarabella on Instagram. And I put a lot of information there and a lot of behind the scenes pictures. But if God is going to give us that gift, you can read on my I say right there on the page about me, I don't believe in life gifts because God's never late. He's always right on time, and he knows exactly the gift we need when we need it. And it has worked out beautifully for me. And when my boys were a little bit, I have two boys, and when they were a little bit older is when I started writing. And the local newspaper came and called first, and I wrote for them for 3 years. And then I moved on to the larger newspaper. So I believe that I love the verse about Colossians 3:23 and 24 that says, whatever you do, Work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. And I told my local bookstore, which is Page and Palette Bookstore, which is quite famous in the world of independent bookstores. They have a lot of famous authors come in. And I told them, I said, I might not be your best author, but I'm going to be your hardest working author. And I have worked my tail off, and they will tell you I am the hardest working author. And I have sold where a lot of local authors will sell 10 books, maybe 30 books. I've sold over 1,000 books for them, and they know that I am very hardworking. The problem is I don't think I'm still the number one selling best local author, because also Rick Bragg lives here and he's considered a local author. So he kind of beats me out. The first year I had a book, though, I beat him. And I tell everyone I beat out Rick Bragg. And at that time, Winston Groom was here. And so I beat both of them. But, oh, they didn't have a book out that year. Oops. So technically, but I won on a technicality. And also, Fannie Flagg doesn't live here anymore, but they consider her a local author. So I'm competing with some pretty big guys here, which makes me work even harder. And but every time I've met any of them, they were all lovely. And we lost Winston Groom a few years ago, so maybe I'll beat him now. I doubt it, though. He's still selling strong. But I love working hard, and I think that when God gives us that gift, the marketing should be part of it. And it's so hard to market books because as writers, we love to sit by ourselves and write. And I can go for days and just write. And I have a home office, but of course, I'm sure all of you know at home, you get distracted and you want to jump up and let the dog out or jump up and do the laundry. So I also have an office away from home that I share with my husband, and he has an industrial warehouse that makes a lot of noise. So I compete with jackhammers and welding things. And so my distraction there is not only just the noise, but sometimes he'll come in and my husband will sit and talk to me, and I'll think, I came here to get away from distractions. And he's so cute, I have to stop and talk to him. So but I do love to work by myself. But marketing, as you know, is a very sociable thing. You've got to get out there and smile at people and talk to strangers, which a lot of authors don't like. And, a lot of people hate public speaking. I don't mind the public speaking so much, but it's just a balance that's rare to find, where you can write in a solitary condition and then market in a very sociable situation. So I think I have some tips for you today that will help you market. And like I said, these are inexpensive because, as we know, unless you are Rick Bragg or Winston Groom or Fannie Flagg, we're not in this for the money. It's like teaching school. We're in it because we love it. We are in it because it's our passion and we're called to do it. And there's not a lot of money that's going to be there. Even after 1,000 books, I can tell you, it's not the big, everyone thinks it's very glamorous. We all know better, though, don't we? We're paying our dues. So we, let's see where I am. Okay. So the first thing is, why we want to market, which of course, what we've covered and I've talked about already. And please make notes of questions, because at the end, I would love to talk with you some more and answer some questions. Let's see. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is cover art on your book. And I think that's the first step in marketing your book. My husband and I will watch the evening news, and they'll put up a picture of this horrible, scary looking criminal and his mugshot. And we always say, sometimes you can judge a book by its cover. You can look at this person and think, I think they're up to no good. So, not always, but the cover of your book is very important. Sometimes you'll have a publishing situation where they want to provide the cover for you. And what I've learned from friends and from myself is that you don't always have to accept that. You can say, I think I have some cover art you can work with. I think I have an idea, and work with them. And the main thing I like is being in control of my book and organizing how it is going to look, because people will buy your book or they'll walk past your book because of the cover. And this, I don't know if you can see, this is the cover of my first book. And it
Yes,
is, Okay, good. It's a photograph from 1961, the majorettes from Decatur High School in Decatur, Alabama. My mother lived close to there in Hartselle. And I knew while I was writing this book, I wanted an all-American, wholesome majorette for the cover of my book. And it's hard to find a wholesome majorette these days. In my story, I say some of them abuse the power of sequins. But we bought this picture and the rights to this picture from the Decatur Daily News. And with the photograph came the rights to use it. And I told my husband, I know I'm going to hear from one of these ladies who are now in their 70s. And sure enough, right before Christmas that year that I released it in November, I got an email from someone here in Fairhope that said, that's my mother on the second from the right. And we're going to hide this book from her until Christmas and we're going to give it to her. And they recorded giving her this book. And when she opened it up, she was so excited. She was dancing around her living room and she was very happy. And then I did a book signing in Birmingham and she showed up at my book signing and I recognized her. She did a little majorette pose and right at my table. And I was like, you're my majorette. So it was funny. She told me all about the ladies and what they were doing. So that was really fun. But this cover literally stopped traffic. When I was at book signings, I had a huge banner behind me with this picture on it. Children would stop, ladies would stop, men would stop, and they would all stare. And some of them would say, my mother was a majorette like that, or my aunt had an outfit like that, or some memory came back. So for me, the retro vintage look really was captivating to people, and they would stop and talk to me because of this cover. And the stories inside this book are short newspaper columns that I wrote, and only one of them is about the majorettes. The rest of them are about raising children and having dogs jump on my furniture and cooking experiments that went wrong. So it's a variety of short stories, but that one story just made me think that's the cover of my book. So that was my first cover. The second cover was, there may be a glare on this, it's called Exploding Hush Puppies, More Stories from Home. And that's kind of a little vintage girl in the kitchen. And she kind of is supposed to look like me. Of course, it makes her look like she's 20. Oops. There, I do that all the time. So that was me on the cover doing, ooh, ooh. So this is also a collection of short newspaper columns. And the first story in the book is about going to my grandparents' house in Defuniak Springs, Florida. And all of the ladies didn't know there were too many cooks in the kitchen, and they all put baking powder in the hush puppy mix, not knowing that the other one had already put baking powder in. So when they started frying the hush puppies, they started exploding all over the kitchen. And because my family was a Christian family, no one was cussing. And so it was this haywire. And I said, when I was a little girl, I sat there and I thought, I think maybe when I get older, I might need to learn how to cuss. So I wrote a whole story about cussing without cussing. There's not a bad word in here. It's very squeaky clean. So this cover was very cute. And it also got people's attention because it was just a cute, funny picture and the title was interesting. So that was good. And then this was the best cover I've done so far. But this is a Christmas book, and I'm going to see if you can see this one up close. It's called Bringing Christmas Home, and there's a vintage picture of a man carrying a box. This is a true story, and it's a short story. It only takes about an hour to read, and it's for children and adults. And the neat thing about this book is the main character is an elderly lady. And when do we ever get an elderly woman as the main character of a book? But it's about my husband's grandmother, and this would be her father. And the artist nailed it. And I knew exactly what I wanted in this. I ran up in the attic. It was a hot summer day, and I got an old Christmas wreath, and then I picked up a FedEx box that always seems to be laying around my house, or Amazon box, And I put the wreath over my arm and I held the box and I told my husband, this is what I want the man to be doing. And he understood it. And my husband's very helpful with these things because he's got a good visual mind and he's good on the computer. He did not create this book cover, but he helped me relay it to the artist. And also at the end, when we have time for discussion, I'll tell you about the place where I found this artist. It's a worldwide competition that you do on the computer, and artists compete to see who can win, and you pay the winner and you get the rights to their artwork. So the lady who created this book cover lived in the country of Georgia, and she won the contest hands down. And the other covers that I got, we also did this cover the same way through the same, it was called 99 Studios, I believe, but we can talk about that more at the end. But the other ones were so funny and totally off. Some of the others looked like a kindergartner had drawn them, and one of them looked like W.C. Fields, and he had this big red nose. And I was like, no, 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 that's wrong. So this is the cover that we came up with. But I didn't realize people collect Christmas books. And I had several people tell me, I bought this book because the cover was so beautiful and I wanted to put it on my coffee table. And then I read it. Oh, and I cried and I loved it. Thought, well, thanks a lot. You're supposed to read the story first. But children have liked it. It was a beautiful cover. I ended up loving it. But your cover will be your best marketing. So don't settle for a bad cover. And this new book I'm coming up with, I ran the same contest and I settled. And I stayed up at night. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, this is not it. This is not a cover that grabs me. I want something that grabs me. And I had described a car driving and different things. So finally, if you go on my blog, I have a website. It's leslieanntarabella.com. And I have a story there now. My feature story, the newest story, is all about the cover reveal. And I tell the story of how I found this artist in Nevada, who ended up being the daughter of a friend. But this is a little one, but it's just a picture of the cover. I don't know if you can see that. It's called We Don't Push in Fairhope. And that's hard to see, I know. And I don't have the book yet, but she did a great job with that. So always be in control of your cover and insist on excellence. And sometimes a simple cover is better. Sometimes just the title of the book on a plain background, that might work for you. Mark Twain's books didn't have any artwork on the cover. I think they were just plain, and I think it worked for him. So just always be happy with your cover because that's the first thing people see. The next thing I want to talk to you about is how to learn to make your own ads and your own bookmarks and business cards. If you are afraid of using the computer, try to get over it because you will be your best friend. And to me, it's really fun trying to design my own ads. And what I do is I use PicMonkey. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's easier to learn, to me it is, than Photoshop. And some of you may be great at Photoshop. And my two sons are grown and they're very good with graphics. One of them, they studied art and one studied journalism at Stanford University. So they make fun of me for using PicMonkey because they think it's too simplified. But over the years, PicMonkey has got better and better. And it's just the personal one I like. There's also Canva. I've used Canva a little bit. I use Canva actually for creating press kits. And what I do with PicMonkey is I'll first go to Etsy. And I don't know if you've heard of Etsy, but if you go into Etsy and you search for clip art, and then you put in your topic, if your book has a puppy dog in it, look for puppy clip art or cute dog clip art. Or maybe you have science fiction, or maybe you have a scene in your book with a beautiful meadow and flowers. Look up floral clip art, but just start looking at the clip art and you can find clip art for $3. $5. I mean, it's nothing. It's very inexpensive. So even if you get it and you think, I don't think I can use this, you've wasted $3, which doesn't hurt you too badly. So, which I hate to waste a penny, but still, what you do is you click the button and it downloads, and then you've got that on your computer to use those images in a little ad. And I wish I could show you, but they're on my computer. My computer is being used to show me to you now. But my Christmas book, since it was a retro theme, it was, about my husband's grandmother, and she was born in 1916 in New York City. So I wanted some old-timey looking things in my ads. And that's just what worked for me. So I looked up vintage Christmas clip art, and I found these cute scenes of like a lady building a snowman, and she was all dressed in old 1950s costumes. And even though my book was 1920s and 1930s, it's still tied in. And what I would do is I would use her picture, and then I would put the text at the top. It's still not too late to order in time for Christmas. And I could put that on Facebook. I could put it on Instagram. And if you go to my Instagram page, it will be easy for you to scroll back in time to last October, November, December, and you can see some of my ads that I made for social media using this vintage clip art. Some of them were retro looking old-timey Christmas ornaments. And I would put, don't forget, I'll be at Barnes and Noble book signing this weekend. Sometimes it would be a retro looking man and lady decorating their Christmas tree. And I would say, come see me at Page and Palette for a book signing. And I would advertise that. And it really got a great response. People would click on it, and I could link it on Facebook to my website. So when they clicked, they could come there and order, click here to order. Another clip art that I used, let's see, when Barnes and Noble named my Christmas book their official holiday book, they wouldn't use the word Christmas. But they made me their official holiday book. But since I have Christmas in the title, I got them. So yeah. So this is a wholesome book, and it's got a Bible verse in it. And they said, the store manager, I said something about the Bible verse, and I said, you know what? We can always tell people it's just the speech from Linus and Charlie Brown Christmas. Which, what did Linus say in Charlie Brown Christmas? Here's the true meaning of Christmas. For behold, I bring to you great tidings of great joy. So that's in the book there. But let's see. Okay, so also when I made those ads on PicMonkey by using the clip art from Etsy, and like I said, sometimes I would use Canva. My other favorite trick for marketing is to use your local Walgreens or Walmart and make cards. And these cards are photographs. You use their photo department. And if you use Walgreens, there's, first of all, always type in your search engine, Walgreens photo coupon. Hold on. Sorry about that, excuse me. And you will always find a 50% off coupon. I've never not found, they run a constant sale. So what I would do is, for instance, let's see. Here's one that I made for my Christmas book. And I put my picture on there. I put Christmas miracles aren't just for children, and Bringing Christmas Home by Leslie Anna Tarabella. Visit the website. I gave my website, and I gave my Facebook author page. I have a personal page, but I have an author page as well. So I gave that information. This is a card I made with all 3 of my books on it, and just giving my website, leslieanntarabella.com. And I listed all 3 of my books. And what I do with these cards is at book signings, I stick them in the books. People love them instead of bookmarks because they're larger. And I've had people tell me that they use them in other books. They don't tend to throw these away. And it's sturdier than a bookmark. And you can get a lot of information on it. This is your advertisement right here. Don't leave it blank. This is one I made for my majorette's book because it was named one of the 15 best Alabama author books to take to the beach. So I used a graphic here of people going to the beach and they're holding my book. Yay! So and I quoted the journalist that said it's a hoot to read, and she was with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, so that was awesome. So I put her quote on this, and I leave these at bookstores, and I leave these anywhere there is a book opportunity, and I carry them in my purse. And when people say, "How's your book going?" I say, here's a card. Or they'll say, "Oh, you're an author. Where can I find you?" 1 minute, let me get you a card. And I have these cards ready for them. And I can get a stack of these cards, 100 of them at Walgreens. I should be representing Walgreens here, but I can get a stack of these with a coupon for like $14. Now, I
Wow.
have my friend this tip, and he made a really nice card. And he said he used Walmart, but when I went and tried to use Walmart, it was $22, and I'm just frugal enough, not cheap, that sounds bad. I'm frugal. I'm careful with my money, but I just went back to Walgreens, and you can pick them up the same day. By the time I load it into the Walgreens website, go get my shoes on, brush my teeth, comb my hair, they're ready to pick up. And so it's instant. And I'll take a stack of these by different bookstores, and they love them because Barnes and Noble has told me for some reason people just love bookmarks. So this is an older bookmark that I had done, and it's on cardstock, so it's not going to last as long. And this is, let's see, this was cute because when you put it, this is a picture of me years ago when I had little children. I had a Santa dress. I'm going to see if you can see this. So I'm sitting on top of the book. So when you put it in the book, it looks like I'm sitting on top of the book. So, so that's kind of funny. And this was another one I did for the exploding hush puppies. And it shows, let's see, when you stick it in the book, it looks like she's peeking over the top of the book saying, so, but these just don't last as long. And you have to sit, when I took those to my printer, I'd have to sit with scissors and cut them out, which with a kindergarten teaching background, I'm excellent at cutting and coloring. But still, these are much easier to do. Here's a Christmas one I did with just the Christmas book. So this is like my secret weapon. People love these, and I can pass them out. And even if I stick them down in my purse, they don't get torn up because it's a sturdy photo paper. So for very little money, you can do this. Go to the Etsy site first, download some clip art that looks really good. Send it off to your favorite photo place. You might want to use, some of these other online photo services, maybe a better price than what I have. These are a glossy finish, and I do like the matte finish, but you have to wait a few days for that, and I'm impatient. So I like the instant run and get it. So these are really cool to have. Okay, let's see. Excuse me. All right. The next thing I was going to talk to you about is the actual book signing. And some authors dread book signings. And one thing that hurts my heart more than anything else is to walk into a bookstore or some kind of store and see another author sitting there, and they look like they are terrified with lions and tigers glaring at them, and they're just sitting at their table shaking in their boots. And it is one of the most terrifying things ever, more so than for some people being on a stage in a beauty pageant wearing a swimsuit. That's pretty scary too. So sitting at that table thinking no one's going to talk to me and no one's going to come buy my book is a frightening experience. But I'm going to tell you how to do this and to be successful. My record for selling books at a book signing was 80 books in one book signing, but it was a long day. I mean, it wasn't just an hour long. But usually this past year at Barnes and Noble, they were only able, for some reason, to get 30 books at a time from Ingram. So they would get 30 books and call me and say, come do a book signing. I'd sell every one of them in an hour, hour and a half at the most. They'd get 30 more books in. I'd come, I'd sell out those books. So if you scroll back in my Instagram, you'll see where I put sold out again. But what I did is the very first time I went to Barnes and Noble, they had my table, the author table, sitting way in the back or kind of in the middle of the store. You have to be brave and you have to speak up and in a very sweet, nice, Southern charming way say, I love greeting people when they come in the door. Would you mind if I tried moving the table up to the front? And they look very confused, but usually it's just some teenagers that work there and they're like, okay. So I put it kind of over to the side where I wasn't in the way of the traffic. And I would also bring, especially for Christmas, I would bring my own tablecloth that had this beautiful Christmas pattern that was bright and colorful with holly berries and pretty things on it, because their tablecloth is usually black and just plain. And sometimes that works. And sometimes, that's fine. But I wanted to grab attention. So I did that. And then I had my books out. And a psychological tip that I just came up with, and I'm saying it's psychological. I don't know if I'm that smart, but if you arrange your book signing table with precisely stacked, even stacks of books, people are afraid to touch them. They don't want to mess up your arrangement. If it looks like it, and our tendency is when we're sitting there is to fiddle and stack and organize and make everything just perfect. But if it looks too perfect, people will not come and talk to you. They're afraid to pick up that book. So usually what I do is I kind of arrange my books, and I can't show you here. Let's see. And kind of just a haphazard. I'll have a stack here and I'll have a stack there, but then I'll have a few just kind of scattered in the front and laying, randomly haphazard looking. And then I'll stand one up, like this so they can see it. And when people enter the store or they walk past your table, just smile and say, hi, how are you? And if you make eye contact with them long enough, you don't want to force them to come to your table. And I've seen authors almost make you come over. Like, if you don't come talk to me, and people don't want to feel trapped. They don't want to sit there. And the worst book signing I ever had was when I had to share a table with another author. And he was a great writer, but what he had done is he had made a little commercial on his telephone, and it lasted too long. It was over a minute long, which doesn't sound long, but when you're standing there and you're trying to do your holiday shopping, you don't want to stand and go, nice, nice. And they felt trapped. They couldn't leave. And what he would do is when people would approach our table, he would say, look at my video. He wouldn't say, would you like to look at my video? He would just say, here, look at my video. And he would hold up the camera and his phone and make them stand and watch. And they were bored and they'd leave. And I would think, wait, come talk to me. I'm nice. I don't make you watch a video, But so you don't want to make them feel trapped. So my opening line was always something like, hi, I'm a local author, and if you feel like hearing about my book, I'd love to tell you, if you feel like hearing about my book. And sometimes in Barnes and Noble, especially, I'd say, if you can't find what you're looking for in the other 30,000 books, come back and I'll be glad to tell you about mine. And so they would always laugh. And honestly, sometimes people would laugh and walk away, but then they'd come back. They'd say, okay, tell me about the book. And so it was kind of an optional thing. And so you want like just a quick 5 to 10 second greeting that lets them know who you are. I'm a local author, I'm an author, and this is my book. That's, basically what you want to tell them. And just something about, I would say, this is a true story about my husband's grandmother. So if you'd like to hear about it, I'll be glad to tell you. And the next thing is have that 30-second pitch ready. And I'm still working on the pitch for my new book because it's kind of complicated. But for my Christmas book, I had the best pitch ever. And in 30 seconds, sometimes I would sell books just from that 30-second pitch. And here's what I would say. This is a true story about my husband's grandmother, who was born in 1916 in New York City. And her father, and I would point to her father, her father brought her the most perfect Christmas gift ever. And she loved it with her whole heart. But unfortunately, after a few years, it was tragically destroyed and lost forever. But 80 years later, when she moved to Alabama, she had a Christmas miracle. And right then, people would start crying. Some people would say, I want two of them. And I'd be, here you go. It was perfect. I didn't tell them what was in the box. I refused. And that's the other thing on your cover art. Don't give away the story. Spoiler alert, I'll tell you, it's a doll. But don't, pretend like you don't know that if you ever read the book. It'll be a better ending. But I didn't tell them it was a doll. And even if they guessed, if they said, was it a doll? I would say, you'll have to read to find out. But you want them to be intrigued without giving away what's inside. But when I said there was a Christmas miracle, and I'd always do my hands like that too. I'd always say, Christmas miracle. I would have men crying. This one big, strong man in this cowboy hat, he was dabbing tears away. And he could hardly get out the name of, I think it was a little girl he wanted to give it to. It broke my heart. I mean, it was very happy and exciting, but it was so sweet that those emotions come out. But get your pitch down to give them a teaser. And that's the way I sold 80 books, 30 books, walking out the door until they were out. And I would tell people, this is the last one left. I don't care what it's about. I want it. If everybody else is buying it, I want it. But you engage them. Don't be afraid to rearrange your table. Don't be afraid to say in a very sweet way, I'd like to try it a new way, and always thank them, always, help them. And I always tell the bookstore owner, my job is to make you look good. I want your store to look great and be known for wonderful authors here. And you will not believe how many of them just thank me. Oh, I am so glad, because, a lot of people come in and they'll do the big sitting there and just not say a word to anyone. So don't be afraid to speak out and tap into that sociable side of yourself, instead of sitting in the room writing. Let's see. Oh, and also I use social media a day ahead, 2 days ahead on my website, on Facebook, and on my Instagram. I don't use Twitter. It just doesn't work for me. It never has worked a lot. So I have a Twitter account, but I just don't ever really use it. But I'll say ahead of time, join me this Saturday in Pensacola, Florida at such and so bookstore. Come see me. I would love to say hi. And I always, no pressure. I always say, even if you already have the book, come by and say hi. I would love to see you and hug your neck. Come by. That's a Southern thing, hug your neck. I don't know why we say that. It's not like we're hugging elbows or anything, but come by, just stop by and say hi. That's what I say. Stop by and say hi. I would love to see you. Come join me at such and so bookstore. Then once I get to the store wherever I'm doing the signing, I'll take my phone, and you got to practice this at home. You take your phone and practice, hi, I'm here setting up at Barnes and Noble. Come see me today. And you do a little video and you put that on Instagram. And it works. People get it and they say, oh, I saw your Instagram and I'm here. One day I was signing books in downtown Fairhope at a little arts and crafts thing. And I put it on Instagram. And less than 20 minutes later, these two college girls came running down the street and they said, we saw you on Instagram. And I thought, oh, good, I'm attracting younger people. And they said, we want to get the book for our mother. She'll love it. That's all right. Come on. So you never know who you're going to draw. And so advertise, advertise, advertise. And when I first started writing for the newspaper, I didn't want anyone to know who I was. And when I had a blog, I wouldn't use my name. The name of my blog was actually Fairhope Supply Company. No one knew who I was. I never put my picture on there because I didn't like the attention. And I was downtown shopping one day and these ladies were talking about, have you seen the new blogs were new back then. I've been doing that for 11, almost 12 years. have you seen this new blog? It's called Fairhope Supply Company. It's so cute. And so I was following them around the store, like listening to hear what they said about it because I was so excited. But when I started writing for the newspaper, I had to use my own name. And it was very nerve-wracking for me because I'm big into security. I had children at home then. And I had a very famous author, actually someone you probably know and love as a great Christian writer, Jan Karen, who wrote the Mitford series. I got to moderate a night with her on stage. And so she and I got to sit and talk, and she's probably one of my favorite authors I've ever met and read. But she said, honey, they just want to know what you had for breakfast. That's all. They don't want to come to your house and shoot you. They just want, they're interested, you know? And in this day of social media, that's true. People are interested in who you are. Will I like this person? Do I like what she likes? Will I like her books? So that's why on Instagram, I put a lot of things about here's my dog, here's what I had for breakfast, you know, different things because they want to connect with you. And we're all about connections. And so that just helps a lot. Let me look at my notes to make, oh, the other thing is don't be afraid to call up and contact your local news stations. A lot of them have those morning news shows and they are looking for things to talk about. And so if you call them, it's hard to get in touch with them sometimes, but if you know someone who knows someone and you get an email and a contact, call them up and say, I have a new book I'd love to talk to you about. They'll have you come on the show. Once again, have that 30-second pitch ready because TV shows are tight, tight, tight. And they want you to tell about they'll say, tell us about your book. And 5 seconds later, they'll say, thank you so much. They want to cut you off. So be ready to present well on that TV show and quickly. If you can't do social media and if you're nervous to use things like PicMonkey or Etsy, go next door and get the teenager to come over to help you. It's not as hard as you think. And if I can learn it, I think you can too. So just as practice makes perfect, just do it over and over. And with your camera, practice. And a lot of times, instead of me doing a video of myself and having that arm sticking out, I'll just ask the bookstore manager, can you hold this camera for me? And I'm just like, hi, come on out and see me. I'm here today from 1 to 3 o'clock. I'd love to see you stop by and say hi. And that's all you've got to say, but practice it over and over. Another thing to do on Facebook is take pictures of different people holding your book and reading it. Ask them, say, will you pretend to read my book and let me take your picture? And get people all over town going like this. And I'm getting ready to do this with my new book too, when I actually get a copy of it in my hand, and then post those pictures on Facebook, either make a collage of them or just, you know, Sally Beth loves this book, or George loves reading this book, or here's someone else. And we have a statue downtown by the bay that is a statue of a lady who used to teach school here. She's very famous. And I went and put my book in that statue's hands, and the statue took her picture reading my book. And now, don't you know, every single author in town does the same thing. I'm like, you're welcome. So I thought it was cute. So let's see. Let me make sure I've got everything here. Oh, as far as pop-up banners go, I told you I had the majorettes banner in back of me. I'm iffy on those because they are trouble to set up. If you're outside, they always blow over, and I'm afraid they're going to blow over and impale someone in the head, you know. So, or sail off down the street. It's like a big sail. So they're very difficult to use. But if you're at a big place that's indoors and you need some attention, they're great. They unroll like a big window screen and you set them up. I have had better luck with tabletop posters. And once again, I'll make something like this, send it to like Staples or some printing shop, and they can put it on foam board for you with a little stand, and you take it and it comes in all different sizes. And that's much easier to set up on your table. And a lot of times the bookstore will ask if they can keep it for a few weeks, or you know, because they want to stand in a display where your books are, and that helps get attention. So you might want to have an extra one made. Let's see. Also, I told you I advertise the book signing before it happens, and then I advertise it. I'm setting up today, come right now. But then afterwards, I post pictures from it to make everybody think, "Oh, I missed out. That looks fun." Even if only 3 people came, act like it's a big deal. And we
Yeah.
had so much fun, and it was great. And I hope to see you next time. And it's fun. And so then you'll get a crowd coming, and they'll think, wow, this book must be great. So always communicate over and over what you're doing, and just let your readers know what's up. Let's see, I'm going to check 1 second. I don't want to go over, miss anything. I hope you have some good questions. But, once again, I just think if you work, and as hard as you work on this book, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you don't want to be sitting there one day in your house thinking, if I'd only worked a little bit harder, or, if I'd only done 2 more book signings, or, God gave me this beautiful story to tell people, and it was exciting, it was fun, it was adventurous. And in this day and age, especially after last Saturday, what happened, people need to take their minds off the troubles of this world. And my short stories are like that. They distract you from things. I've had people read them in hospitals while they've had a loved one sitting in the hospital, because it takes their mind off of their troubles. One of my favorite stories is kind of weird. The wife told me that her husband was very sick. And as a matter of fact, I think he died. But she said the nurse came in and took this book away from her because she was laughing so hard while her husband was dying. So I was like, oops. So, but it was distracting her. That's the good thing. She wasn't sad. But people read this in the hospital all the time and tell me they do this. So I hope she put it away. The nurse took it away from her. But people need stress relief. They need to escape to a cowboy, a Western. They need to escape to Little House on the Prairie. They need something to take them away from their troubles just for a short time. And if you get down the road 5 years and you think, I poured my heart and soul into this book, why didn't I publicize it more? Why didn't I let people know about it? And once you do your job promoting it, other people will help you. I've had friends tell me, I took your card, these cards that I make, and I dropped one off in Mississippi at a bookstore and told them they need to order your book. And they're so nice. And so sometimes I'll give several cards to people. If they're traveling, I'll say, take these with you and drop them off if you happen to be at a bookstore, and they'll help you. And you don't want to have any regrets. So work hard, work for the Lord, keep it focused that you're bringing glory to what He has done, to the words He has put in these books, not yourself. And I just think you'll be blessed, and you'll know at the end of the day that you have squeezed every bit of goodness out of that talent and passion that God gave you.